Hey,
We are here with the amazing James B. Partridge.
good to see you. How are you doing?
Yes, he has an English accent too.
Mm.
Yikes. So tune your ears for what's going to happen. And don't forget to subscribe and like and put in the chat all your love for James B. Partridge. And before we get started, let me tell you what he's done. It is so much, I can't remember. He is a graduate of Cambridge University. So we have a boffin here that studied music. He is big on TikTok, so make sure you follow him on TikTok, James B. Partridge. And if that's too much for the old noggin, then it's all there in the description, right below where you hit subscribe.
Well done.
Okie dokie, let me go through all the amazing things that he's done. He's performed in the UK with the Royal Variety Show, Classic Brit Awards, multiple TV appearances. He also was named BBC Young Songwriter of the Year. He is active on social media. He also does teaching with music. He's worked with the Gala Ensemble with their debut album for Sony, which reached #1 on the classical chart. Don't say I don't have culture on my show.
Absolutely.
So, James B. Partridge, tell me, how would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
The taste of a banana is kind of like opening up a portal into a different world of sliminess.
Slimy. We've never had the adjective slimy yet, right?
Yeah.
Ooh. Do you like bananas?
It depends how ripe they are. I think basically if it goes over the edge into brown, then that is just it's kind of gag inducing slightly, I think. Unless it's mashed up and put into a banana bread, then in that case it's very nice.
Banana bread. Yes.
So you have a sweet spot between being very, very green and then brown. So there's probably a 2-day window where you can actually eat a banana, in my opinion.
Do you cook banana bread?
I personally don't, but my wife does. She's a big fan. So we freeze the bananas once they've gone brown and put them in the freezer. And then when we're ready for banana muffins, banana bread, all of the above, then they come in very useful.
You are a glutinous household?
Absolutely, yeah. Glutinous and gluttonous.
Double G.
Absolutely.
All right. So when did you have your first existential life crisis as a child?
First existential life crisis probably was watching Toy Story 2 when I saw Jessie the cowgirl who was left abandoned on the side of the road, and I thought, oh no, we at some point we have to grow up and leave our childhood behind. And the Randy Newman song that's playing over the top, kind of just sent me into a spiral. So I think 1999 was the year. So there we go. The existential crisis happened then.
What happened as a result of the crisis?
Just questioned childhood as a concept, and the fear of growing up, I think, kind of came in at that point as well as watching Peter Pan a lot. So just didn't want to grow up.
And about how old were you at that time?
I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, so you're embarking upon tweenhood.
Yeah, you've got a concept of who you are as a person by that point. Got a concept of what childhood is and what adulthood is, and how things can go drastically downhill. So,
did you attempt to compensate by double downing on more fairy tales?
Oh yeah, for sure. Then consume the rest of the Disney catalog, and we didn't have Disney Plus in those days, so it was a lot of videotapes that are they're still under the stairs. We've got a cupboard under the stairs full of Disney videotapes. So,
are any due back at Blockbuster or anything?
Well, we've got one. I think that's gone out of print. I don't think it's been in print in the States since the 1970s. It's Song of the South, which I think was taken off the market. So.
Oh, anyone here who's a fan of Song of the South, pop it in the chat. We want to see. Excuse me.
To be fair, Zippy Doo Doo is a great song. So the kids still love it.
Now, you play it a lot?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Is this an invitation to play it?
I don't think so because of copyright. YouTube might flag the video.
We don't want Disney. Thing is, you don't want to annoy Disney. So
yes, that's
they'll
true.
find you. They'll find you.
Do you have a moment after that age which was similar, where you realized you had another shift in your perception of the world?
I think another thing that ties into this is probably a similar age when during the summer holidays, my dad is also a teacher. My parents are both teachers, and he took on a lot of extra marking of exams during the summer break, and he would basically lock himself in the bedroom on a hot summer's day and spend the entire day marking all of these French listening exams, which kind of sounds like hell on earth because you have to listen to every single second of it from the start to finish. So there was a lot of swearing coming from upstairs. I thought, okay, so
Was it in French though?
The swearing.
Yeah.
Well, probably. I mean, I definitely picked up a few things from that time.
So there was the occasional merde.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear that wafting down the stairs.
And was it sort of gulping cups of tea and Kit Kats?
Oh yeah, there's an endless supply of tea and biscuits that we kind of gingerly, no pun intended, pushed through the door. Yeah, as he was kind of shouting and swearing. Actually, my parents are both up in London at the moment, so I'll have to let them know that he's made it onto the podcast.
Ah, very good, very good. So where was so he was up there making all these noises and locked away. What did you perceive from that?
That was another perception of growing up is not worth it. So yeah, or being an adult is not worth it. Getting a job, etc. So no, but my dad's a very calm guy for the most part, and the only 2 times we'd hear him get angry would be when he was doing his extra marking during the summer holidays, and basically during any sports game, so any soccer game or rugby or basically anytime England played, he would just get very, very angry, and we hear lots of fruity language thrown at the TV.
Okay, so I'm with him, and I am a recovering England fan, and I say that because people would make money off of me. I'd be like, I can't swear, and I would always swear. People would come over to watch me get animated at the games. This is how it would be. And I simply have demoted England. I just demoted the team to not win the World Cup. So now when I watch it, rather than have this stress level, I have this stress level.
We just have to manage your expectations. If you assume they're going to lose every game, then you'll be happy if they did win one game. So just manage the expectations.
But then you're not as invested, and it's not as much fun.
That's true. That's true. Although the thing is, I'm not a huge soccer/football fan. But when it comes to the World Cup, I do get really into it. So I think that's a good one, because when you have the club rivalries, I'm kind of like, well, why are you getting so worked up about it? But then when well, I think, as I know in the States, that you support the team on the whole. I think you generally support the team that you live closest by or that you were born by. But I feel like in the UK, the teams you support are pretty random. I mean, obviously you get some diehard Liverpool fans that were born and bred in Liverpool, but then you get a lot of people from down south where I grew up, like my brother, who's also a massive Liverpool fan.
My brother as well.
I supported Newcastle, which is the other side of the country. So yeah.
And right now we are doing this when Chelsea just won.
Exactly. Well, they're down the road to me here. I live in London, and Chelsea is my local team technically. So, but I've been to a couple of games. It was fun. You definitely hear a lot of interesting language there, for sure.
All right, so let's get back to the end of the story with your dad. So he would have merde expletives doing a summer examination grading, and then verbally abuse you while playing football. Is that right?
Not abusing me. It would be thrown at the TV. But I was never very good at football growing up, so he would always tell me to kind of, come on, get the ball in the goal kind of thing, and I would just be stood there shivering on one side of the football pitch, not really wanting to move. And then after about a few months of that, then he realized that I was probably best off having piano lessons. So, which worked out well in the end.
Okay, so this changed that as an adult, you behaved irrationally sometimes?
Yeah. So it kind of gave me an impression that humans are fallible, and there are some things that can just tip you over the edge, from being a very calm and collected person to being an anger monster. So, yeah, that I started getting awareness of what was going on in the world at that point.
And so then did you change your perception with other adults as a result?
Yeah, I think so. Then kind of seeing teachers in school and thinking, well, when you're younger, you kind of think that all the teachers know exactly what they're talking about. And even 18, before you leave school, you kind of think, oh, they know what they're talking about. Then looking back on it, think, actually, I was just talking about this with my dad. I had one teacher who was very charming, and all the kids loved him. But every week he lost our homework. He would come in and say, oh no, the kids, they never handed it in. And we would say, oh no, we did. And then he said, yeah, you never handed it in. So I think you start to realize in kind of hindsight how a lot of people are not quite as good as we thought they were when we were younger.
That, I think, is almost a trauma for generations of school children. You didn't hand it in when you did, and especially in the UK, the younger the child compared to an adult, the child automatically does not have any burden of truth upon them whatsoever.
Well, that's the thing, because he would say to the head, he would say, oh, who do you believe, us? Who do you believe, them or me? No, they're just children, So that's how we got away with it.
Okay, well, now we know all the secrets. But nowadays, there's, especially after COVID, much more is submitted electronically. And, this has pros and cons as well, because I've just been dealing with freshmen who submitted tests online, had a flash screen saying it's submitted, and they got their final grade, and they say they didn't get 5 of the tests. And yet there was no receipt sent that it's submitted. And when they addressed the authorities about there's possibly a tech issue here, I still passed the class, but someone else might not. What came back was, we understand it's hard getting your first C. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's something wrong. Someone else's scholarship may have got messed up. It needs to be investigated. And that perception of you only care about your grade rather than a global approach is slamming down the same way. Well, who do you believe, the adults or the kids?
There we go. Exactly. I mean, in the digital world, just have to record absolutely everything that happens. Otherwise, no one will believe you.
Right. So now, although this semester is over and everyone's going back, screenshots are going to have to be taken. I will say my experience when I was at university and I was an independent student in the US and paying my own way, I learned how to dot I's, cross T's, take copies of everything through that whole process, which saved me. I'd also had a bit of experience before dealing with, INS in the US back then, and it saved me so many times. But it also instills this fear of at any moment the shoe could drop, but also this authority. And so if we continue to have experiences from childhood, which are imprints, right, into our perception, how we continue to view the world, that include repression of you do not have truth on your side, we will continue to have rebellion against society, but we will continue to create differences rather than accepting people. And so I think the education system, even though we do need to respect authority, which very much is being diminished, and teachers are never recognized in the West, I feel, the way they are in other cultures, that sometimes they're not lying. Kids are not lying.
Yeah, exactly. It's doesn't have to be the us v them thing, or me, one person versus the whole room of kids. So
Yes, exactly. Now, with that, how are you? Sorry, I'm just checking the time. How do you change your approach when you deal with children teaching?
yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty open with all the kids I teach, because I teach relatively young age. So the majority of people I teach are between about 7 to 11 age range, and then a few older ones privately that I teach. So I teach in two schools that would be called prep schools here, which is kind of leading up to about 11 years old. So on the most part, they're just, a lot of them just want to have a fun time singing songs, Disney songs that they like. So but a lot of the kids want to do exams, and a lot of the parents want the kids to do exams. So my kind of process right now is kind of preparing them to take these exams, and then if they don't get the grade that they want to, first of all saying it's just one performance on one day, and it's one person's opinion of that one performance on that one day. So don't take this as a personal attack on you, and also just kind of recognizing a few of the things they can maybe improve for next time if they do want to do it. But in terms of kind of truth, I don't usually say, oh, that sounded amazing, if it was like totally tone deaf or whatever. I'm relatively, I think, compared to some teachers, I'm relatively optimistic with my comments to the parents. If they say, oh, my daughter can't, so I actually get this from some parents, say, oh, my daughter can't sing, can you help them? Good faith in your child there. So
Why do they want the child to learn to sing then?
just, I don't know, something to do probably. Or, well, thing is, I actually just had an email yesterday from someone saying, so my 16-year-old daughter wants to apply for the school play, which is in 2 weeks' time. Can you? She can't sing, but can you maybe help her get her part? And I thought, what? I'll just get my magician's hat and do the job. But it could also be the sort of thing where I take on the pupil, and actually they can sing, but they just don't have any confidence.
You think that's most of it, lack of confidence?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is a lack of confidence, because you get some people where the parents might say, oh, they can't hold a tune, and then I'll play a little melody, and then they can sing it back to me, so they can recognize what the music is, they can hear the music, and they can sing it back. So that's step one of being able to sing, being able to recognize where the music's going, and being able to hold a tune. But then the next part of it is obviously a huge performing, like the performative element of it. So if they hunch their shoulders and kind of looking down, and it's the same with drama, it's the same with actors. If you're performing to the floor, hunching your shoulders, you're collapsing your lungs, then you can't perform. You're not telling a story. You're not engaging with the music. So that's a huge part of it. Even if the actual quality of the singing is not as good as it could be, just being a confident performer can elevate it. Definitely.
Now, with your experience of how a system automatically puts in the adults are up here, the kids are down here, right? As you're in the arts, naturally, there's a little bit more leeway. And it sounds like trust is a huge element you have to create to get the best out of the student. Do you find that means automatically you're not creating that big barrier between the child that is in a lot of standard schooling?
Yeah, and the thing is as well, especially with the teaching I do, obviously COVID aside, in terms of barrier between teacher and pupil, just physically in the classroom, there isn't much of one with what I do in terms of one-on-one lessons. So I'll be sat at my piano here, and then people will be sat next to me or stood next to me. So we work in fairly close proximity. And I take cues from the student, especially younger ones. If they say, I really want to sing this, then I might say, no, you're not quite ready for that one yet. Or that's a great idea. And, oh, I've never heard that song before. Why don't I try and find it, and we can work through it together. So I'm definitely of the opinion that you need to listen and work with pupils, especially with the one-on-one teaching I do. It might not work quite as well with the classroom lesson, because all hell might break loose, and then the whole class might riot, and everyone wants to do their own thing. So I guess there has to be a little bit more control and a little bit more of a divide between teacher and pupil. But because at the end of the day, the pupil isn't your friend. Well, you might be friendly with them, but you're not kind of it's not a collaboration. You are teaching them, but you have to listen, and there has to be kind of an element of transparency between the two, I think.
So listening is even more important because it's music.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because if they don't listen to me, if they don't take on my suggestions and say, okay, you need to, you know, literally change the notes that you're singing, then they won't sing correctly. But if I don't listen to them, then I won't. They might be totally bored, and their singing might be flat. If I'm getting them to do a load of 18th century sea shanties, and they really want to do, they really want to sing Pocahontas, then it's not going to really work. So there has to be a bit of a collaboration, I think, personally.
So when you come to a presentation, if you do them, do you find everyone wants to sing the same songs?
There's a bit of that, and I try to make sure that people don't. A lot of people would like to sing Disney princess songs, but so I do encourage a little bit of diversity. But if they sound great doing that, then go for it, I think.
With a conversation that's already in the subconscious mind of you can't carry a tune, right? Children will have heard that already. That's gone into them.
Oh,
Even if you have someone who shows up that it's completely not true and they start blossoming, how long does that individual stop telling themselves that story? Or is that lack of confidence, that kernel, still with them even after years of proving over and over again they can carry a tune?
Yeah, I mean, those sorts of comments they don't just go away overnight. If you're being told time and again by a parent or a teacher or a colleague or whatever, you can't sing, you can't do this, you're gonna think, well, if you're of a strong mind, then you might think, well, screw you, I'm gonna do it anyway, I'm gonna do my best, and I'm gonna prove the haters wrong, kind of thing. But for a lot of people, or even most people, you could say that can put you down, and that can put into your mind, oh no, maybe I'm not a good singer, or maybe I can't hold a tune, or whatever. So yeah, I think there's probably a bit of psychology behind that, thinking, is it that they can't actually hold a tune, or is it because they've been told so many times that they can't do something that actually means that they feel like they can't, but actually they just need someone to help them unlock it? Mm-hmm. But even if, as I say, even if there is someone to help them unlock it, how long does it take for them to forget about that,
Did you have that challenge yourself when you couldn't do football but you started doing music?
Yeah, for sure. I think on the biggest example for me was I was told not to apply to Cambridge because I wouldn't get in.
And this was told by a college counselor, school counselor?
My careers advisor at school, yeah. The teacher that's employed by the school to advise the pupils on what they should do for higher education. And I guess some of these things for American audience they might know, but GCSE is kind of like the SATs, I think, when you're 16. I think.
Well, so I'll do a little translate for people around the globe, because there's going to be people from the UK dialing in. There are different exams that are required for every higher education. So whether you're in the UK and you're going to apply to Harvard in the US, or you're in the US, so the standard tests in the US, the ACT or the SATs, are a standard test across the country, because just like in the UK, different schools have different standards. So they have a standardized test, but the grades all have to be at a certain level, and then additional whether you've taken college courses, and then the standardized test. So it's the same premise. You have to have demonstrated an academic record before you will be able to eligible to apply. So that's the same. We don't have to get into too many nitty-gritties, but this is an important element, because Michelle Obama was told she shouldn't apply to Princeton.
And what happened to her?
She got into Princeton.
Yeah, there we go.
And that's 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Yours is 10 plus years ago. So it means that this story is still repeating. And my experience of 2 years ago with a high schooler in the US applying to universities was the same. They can't apply there. We'll see. Yeah. They won't get in there. We'll see. Yeah, and they did get in to lots of top schools, and the one they got into, it's harder to get into than Princeton, because the arts are hard. But
Yeah.
if they
Oh, yeah.
hadn't applied, they wouldn't have got in at all. So this is a story that's happening. We do have to understand that college counseling or the school counselors cannot have everyone apply to the same place, because the school's reputation will go down and you're actually competing against your fellow classmates, right? Because each university, no matter how great the school is, cannot take everyone from that top school in the country. They just can't do that, right? But the story of telling people you can't apply definitely needs to be changed. If it's in the hands of the student, I want to apply, I can apply anywhere, that will then diminish the need to apply to prestige, right? Because prestigious schools don't guarantee your life is going to change. It can be one up, and the stats have now shown that even if people get to the higher school where they come from, that actually doesn't change that much. Getting an education, absolutely important. And so finding the right fit is important. But let's go and delve a little bit deeper into your experience, because this is an important conversation to have, because it's still occurring and it's talking about that lack of confidence. Because even if people do get in, they may not want to go because what they've been told from that counselor as well. So you were told not to apply to Cambridge.
Yeah, well, and it can work. It can totally work the other way as well. So if you're told all your life, you know, you might have a set of parents that went to Harvard and Princeton or Cambridge or Oxford or whatever, and you think from the age of 8 years old, you're told, when you're 18, you've got to go to this university. This is where we went to, and then your entire following 10 years of education are just for the preparing yourself for the applications for these universities. I knew people that had this exact situation where they were told time and again, you are expected to be applying to Cambridge and Oxford, and then actually when they didn't get in, it was totally crushing. And obviously for me, if I hadn't have got in, I think, okay, well, oh well, I gave it a go, and you know, that was that kind of thing. But if you've set up yourself for the previous 10 years working towards this goal, and actually you might end up at a good university, but not one that you have expected to go to. For a lot of people, the good university that they ended up at would be the dream, you know, that would be the goal. But for them, they set their expectations on this top tier. And in reality, it may not have even been the best fit for them. But because they've been told for all these times, they have to, you know, apply for this almost unattainable goal. Then when they don't get it, it's just so much worse. But for me, being told, "Oh, don't bother applying," and actually, it happened to my brother as well. He's a musical theatre performer, and he was actually told, "Oh, yeah, don't bother applying for this musical theatre school, which is one of the best in the UK. Apply for a university that has a drama course," which I'm sure would have been fine. But he said, "No, I don't want to do this." And he ended up kind of going for this scholarship, which only 8 people in the UK could get, and then he got it, which is great. But it's one of those things. It's like I think had he just been told, okay, yeah, go for it, you'll definitely get it, and all this stuff, and if he didn't, then it'd make it a lot worse. So it can work in both ways.
Well, ultimately, it comes down to if we're raising our next generation in a consciousness of listening to their own intuition. And if that grows as we grow up, by the time they get to an age to decide either way, it will be even stronger. So in the case of your brother, it was strong enough that he was able to stand up for himself and say, no, this is what I'm doing, right? But all that conversation around it was because mainly fear of parents, right? Concerning fear to help the child, but also there isn't the training. There isn't the training globally of how do we raise children to listen to their own intuition and their own voice, which is where a lot less struggle would occur. And then there would be more trusting, and that chatter that has to be unwound. You didn't believe me, you didn't back me during this time, right? You didn't do that. And that can stay very deep, especially in the all times, right? In our times of need. So my question for you before we go is, what would you like to leave as a James legacy after your body drops from the planet, or to help make the planet a better place? Anything you want to do?
I think I would like to leave some kind of I don't know if you call it legacy, but some kind of impression on people I've taught or people I've worked with in music, just to share the love of music and share the enjoyment of exploring new kinds of music and the love of singing that I've had. So hopefully in a few years' time, when I'm not around anymore, hopefully my love of music has been passed on to a few other people, and they'll pass it on to other people, you know, passing it down. So
Well, I definitely hope it's more than a few years.
Yeah, well, hopefully. You never know. I'm past the what's 27 club. That's the I'm past that now. So yeah, we'll see. Depends what happens with global warming, you know.
Right. So that's the potential unification of us globally. Although I'm not sure how well we did during COVID. Well, stay tuned. Thank you, everybody, for waiting till the end. Please like and subscribe. Put your comments to James. See if we want to have a more in-depth chat with him. Check him out on TikTok. And then wait for part 2, where we're going to ask the more fast-fire questions of James. Bye!
Bye!